Next, I'd like to show you how to make a build, but we're going to do it from scratch. I'm first going to add a new app. Getting started with Visual Studio App Center. And I'm going to make that a Xamarin Android app and add it. Then I'm going to go to Build. Now, we have a few options here. We want to connect to our favorite repository. Well, what might that be? In this particular case, it's GitHub, but you may use Visual Studio Team Services. You may use a Git repo on Bitbucket. We're going with GitHub here because I'm already hooked to my GitHub account and you can see my repos. And I want to go for DevOps for mobile apps. And it's going to go in and do its best to find a project in that repo. So it seems to have found a branch. It found a master branch. No status yet. I'm going to drill down, and it hasn't been configured yet. So let's go ahead and configure this build. So there it went and found the Android CS Proj file, which is a Xamarin project file. Really quite clever. We have a few configurations here to go with, debug or release. For right now, I'll just stick with debug. It allows you to choose the mono version. You can insert custom build scripts if you have particular requirements. You can also specify whether you want it automatic, that is, build this branch on every push, or you want it done manually. Choose when to run the builds. And then we have the option to automatically increment the version. And then you can specify where the version comes from. Then there is the important field, whether to sign builds. Now, if you have a key store on hand or you're in the mood to build one, go ahead and do this, upload your key store, because if you don't, you won't get to do test on real device. So test on a real device is really super handy. It allows you to automatically compile and run within Test Cloud the very first screen of your app after a build, and you get a pass-fail as to whether or not your build runs after it compiles. It's one thing for a build to compile, it's another thing altogether for it to run. And the same thing goes for distribute builds. Can't distribute a build if it's not signed. So I'm going to go ahead and save and build. And it's going to kick off this build. You see it's got it queued up. I can click on it and I can cancel it if I want, if I decided I had jumped the gun. But let's not cancel it. Let's just let it run. So there, it's done. That took a minute or two. But this is the magic of Visual Studio Team System underlying App Center. It's because we get the advantage of having a cloud-based server system, really, that we have access to when we upload our build. And it does all the great things that we're used to Team System doing for us with a simplified interface. So we've gone ahead and built our app, and what we get is a build output. So this is particularly useful, obviously, when it fails, but even when it succeeds, you might find some information that's useful. It tells you exactly how long it took it to build, and then you can download that build and save that zip file to your drive. Perhaps you want to drop it into a simulator. Perhaps you want to put it into a folder. It's up to you. Now, had we signed this build, this distribute button would be available. But we did not this time. And that's how to build an app within Visual Studio App Center.